means we probably are live on Facebook.
Okay, I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. Let me get my Facebook ready so that I can see what is occurring.
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the usual setup of our Facebook Live. Always.
We're doing it on purpose to give people time to log in.
Exactly. Always deliberate.
Yeah.
Seagulls are going mad this evening. Can you hear them?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Right.
Was it you that I was telling about? I was watching a program. Someone was talking about birds and how they were saying that it felt like during coronavirus there was more birds, or that the birds were singing louder. Was I telling you about that? Yeah.
Well, I've definitely got more bird shit on my car, that's for sure.
Birds on his t-shirt. Which wasn't the point of his message, but that was the bit that I liked. Okay, cool. So we are live and we've got some people watching. So we've got Lucy with us. Hi, Lucy. Hi, Peter.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Rachel. Good to have you all here. I can't remember what I said we were going to talk about when Sam was typing in the update. So I'm just going to share what kind of comes to me. And hopefully that's aligned to what it was we just talked about. But what we wanted to do this week was talk around the art of connection. Like, just really, we've been talking to a lot of people who are either in their practice, they have space for one more client, many more clients, they have no clients right now and want some clients. So people are at different parts of their practice building, but there's still a lot of stories for a lot of people around getting into conversation with people and actually seeing if you can be helpful, or seeing if you can bring some value, or seeing if you can get into a coaching conversation. So we just really wanted to speak from the heart this week around that piece, to see how we can help you break down some of those barriers and some of those limitations that might be there, whether you see them or not. So we're going to share a few stories that have happened in our practices this week. So just conversations that we've got into and how they've come about, and see if you can relate to any of that, find any kind of insights in there that might be helpful for you. And then we've also got some exciting news to share at the end of this live as well. So we'll give you more details towards the end. So if you're watching now, let us know as you're kind of listening what's coming up for you, any questions that you've got, anything that you want us to expand on. And also, if you're watching the replay, please do the same, because we'll go back and we'll look through all the comments like we always do. Yeah, so do you want to kick off, Sam, with your client conversation story that you've got?
I would love to kick off with that story. It's a really cool story, if I do say so myself. But all I would say before I start is, if any of this resonates with you, so if you're somebody that does want more clients, you want to get into more conversations, maybe you just want one more client, maybe you just want to fill your diary full of clients because you're at the beginning, the exciting news at the end is for you. So stick around for that. Or if you really hate what we're talking about, just kind of watch later and then skip to the end and it's job done, whichever works for you, right? Don't encourage people to do that, but let's be real. So yeah, so this is a really cool story. I actually meant to do a live on this today in the group, but I thought we'd save it for this evening. And it's a real life kind of client creation story. And I had a client sign up with me. Well, technically she signed up with me Friday, but she paid on Sunday. So is that Friday, or was that Sunday really, isn't it? Because you can't count it until they pay.
Yeah.
So this, what I want to do is take everybody right back to how this came about, because there's a lot in this story that in the past would have really thrown me off. And there are so many points along the way that I probably would have stepped back and said, oh no, like, this isn't for me. No, I can't coach this person. She doesn't want coaching. She hasn't got the money, all this kind of crap, right? So this conversation came about when I'd noticed just in my life, in my world, that there was this person in my view that kept popping up and asking questions. We're kind of in the same sort of circles, around the kind of same non-duality, three principles kind of circles. And some of the questions she's answered, like I could just over time, I started to see, I'll probably help this person. I reckon I can help this person. And we kind of connected a couple of times through conversations. And it just kind of occurred to me one day when she asked a specific question. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to send her a direct. It was actually a video to her, just going to record a video and I'm going to send her a video and just invite her into a conversation. It's as simple as that. I didn't mention coaching. I said, I'd love to get you into a conversation so we can talk about some of this stuff, because I think I can help you with some of these questions that you've got. I didn't have, oh, I definitely can, and I can give you this, and it's all going to be rosy. It was just very much, I think I can help you with this. Should we find out? And her initial response was, Sam, this is where it got really interesting for me, because in the past, this would have been like, oh yeah, that's solid. You know, this isn't for me. She said, Sam, really honestly, I've had loads of coaching in the past. I don't have the money for it right now. And if I'm honest, I'm not really in the space for it. So I went back to her and said, well, that's cool. I'm not actually offering you that. I'm just offering you a conversation because I think I can help. If that's something you're interested in, let's do it. You know, we're in each other's world. Why not, right? Kept it light, kept it fun, didn't have any attachment to it. She came back, she was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. So we got into conversation, and this was about 2 weeks ago. And the cool thing about that was it was just really light and fun. And I didn't buy into all those stories that I used to around, you know, this person doesn't have money, so I can't coach. And it genuinely was about just having a conversation. So we had this really cool conversation for about an hour and a half, just very light. I didn't have any attachment to where it might go. And at the end of that conversation, we both agreed, we had a great time. And I said, do you want to have another one of these? Is this something that you found useful? She's like, do you know what, Sam? I really did find it useful and it really helpful. And it turns out that in the past, she's had a lot of discovery call type coaching, but no one has ever actually really coached her properly before. So she kind of had an experience of that and she really liked it. She had another, following on from that, a week later, had another conversation. And I just really wanted to work with her, Lisa. I really want to work with her. And by the way, guys, I'm telling this story. If you've ever had any of those thoughts about, oh my God, they can't afford it, or can I help them? I mean, all the pressure's on and it gets a bit heavy. If you've ever had those experiences, give me a 1 in the comment section so we know that we're talking to the right audience, right? Give me a 1 and let us know if that's you, because it definitely used to be me an awful lot. And you know what was really interesting? At the end of that session, I said, you know what, I would love for us to talk about working together for a time. If you found this useful, I was quite forward with it. I didn't ask her at that point. Normally I do. I'd love to work with you, honestly. I think you're so cool and there's so much here for me. And she said, Sam, I feel the same. Like, I'm really surprised by this. Let's have a conversation. And we went into this proposal conversation there and then, right? And we had made sure we had plenty of time. We had a good half hour left. And she was like, God, I didn't expect it to be that much. So I didn't say anything. I just left her with it because I knew where it was going to go based on the conversation she had. And then she just came back and she said, you know what? I've never invested this sort of money in myself before. She said, I'm willing to give it to everybody else, but I'm not willing to do it for myself. And she said, on that basis, and all the things we've discovered, I know this is what I need to change. She said, I'm in. So going from somebody who doesn't have money to I don't want coaching, to holy shit, this has been an experience I want more of, to client creation. And now we're just really fucking excited to work together because we've had a cool experience. We know what it's going to look like. And there was just, again, like I say, without banging the same drum a million times, it was just that there was so much in that story that in the past would have had me running for the hills or saying, no, this person isn't open to coaching. No, I'm not going to get a client out of them. Then it would have put me off, but I stayed in service. And that's what happens, I think, often when we get out of our own way and get into service.
Yeah, I love that. And I was kind of writing down everything that I was hearing in like the messages behind the story. And what I could see that you were doing was probably different from where you were in the beginning, different from where I was in the beginning, different from where a lot of people are. I can see a lot of ones going on in the group. Rachel and Peter. Sam's with us now as well. Hi, Samantha.
Hi, guys.
But I wrote down, there was no filtering. You know, she said straight away, oh, I can't afford it, or I've had coaching before. But you didn't buy into that story and you didn't create your own story about it. There was lightheartedness. Let's just have a conversation and see where it goes. There was no attachment. At that point, when you entered into that connection, there was no attachment to having anything be the outcome.
No.
Right? There was total freedom there. And then I wrote down and I underlined this one. She's never had an experience of your coaching. how many assumptions do we make around they've had coaching before? She's saying, well, coaching didn't ever had coaching before and it didn't work and blah, 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 blah. They've never had your coaching before. They've never experienced your service. They've never experienced your questions. They've never experienced sitting in a space with you. So I underline that one. I really like that one. There was no buying into your own stories or their stories. And there was a real space for insight. So at the end there where you were sharing about the proposal conversation and she was like, oh, that's way more than I thought. So easy at that moment to go into our heads and be like, oh, here we go. Here's coming the money objection. She's out. I've just spent an hour with this person. Blah, blah, whatever is going on in our minds. It's seeing that there's no truth in that. There's nothing worth looking for in that chatter. There's no quality information in there for you. So it's just staying really present. And you just held that space. It sounds like you held that space beautifully for her to process it all herself and sit with the experience that she just had of you. And she could see for herself, there was no convincing in sight. There's no you wanting to work with her more than she wants to work with you, so you've got to try and hook her in. Or it was just beautiful service and a space where she actually came to the realization that this is an investment, not a cost.
Yeah.
Which I think is super cool. Super
It was
cool.
so emotional as well, man. Like, I'll share that with you. We both had a few tears over it, because at the end, when she realized that the reason that she's not getting what she wants is because she's not willing to put herself first. Like that, there's a lot of what we found, and her stories around that, and her filters, talking of filters. And it was really emotional, that moment where it just landed. She just realized that actually this is the yes. Like the yes is, I'm going to invest in myself. And guys, I want to let you all know that there was still story for me. Like it was still present. It was like, who do I think I am? Oh my God, she told me she can't afford it. And now I'm about to propose like a 4-figure sum, a decent size 4-figure sum to this person. And it's like, who do I think I am? And all this kind of shit, right? It's present, but it's not definitive. It's narrative. And there's a subtle but really quite huge difference, I think.
Yeah, massive.
So anyway, that's
Massive
enough from
difference.
me.
There's no problem having any of those stories. The stories only become dangerous when we think there's important information in there for us. So we start to identify with those stories, which is a cool. It's a cool thing to get curious about as well. Like that's my invitation to people who are watching. Like get curious about the amount of times you've made stories up and then in hindsight seen that they weren't true. Right? It's really clear to see in the past, oh yeah, I don't know what I was worrying about. How many times have people said that? Right? Put 2 in the comments if they're, oh yeah, well I was really worried about that. But I don't know why I was so worried.
It was all right.
Yeah, we get into that habit. So then we end up in I'm really worried about this. Fast forward 6 months, we'll probably be saying the same thing. Oh, I don't know why I was so worried about that.
Yeah.
Or even 6 days or 6 hours. Mm-hmm. But it's just seeing that that's what we do and seeing how many times our thoughts have got in our way and they haven't turned out to be true at all. I have stories to share as well. Like I don't know. In fact, if people are still watching, do you want to let us know? Do you want another story? Do you want us to keep this short? Like, do you feel like you've got the insight that you were looking for? Do you feel like you've got enough information? Because I'm conscious that we don't want to overload you as well. So maybe if you want another story, stick a 3 in the comments. Like just type a 3 or type story and I'll share one from this week. I have a couple to share. If not, I can save them for next week. Because this is really fundamental to growing a coaching practice, is to actually get into conversation with people. And I found it really helpful to see how do other people do it. Not so I can copy, but just so I can take inspiration from it. We're getting some 3s, another story. Okay, so if I'll share.
We're great storytellers, apparently.
Story time. I'll share this and then Sam, we can talk about like what's coming up as well with our exciting offer. So what was the story that I was thinking of? So This was one that I had. So this is a current client that I work with, and I'll give you a bit of a backstory to how I created this client as well, because we've been working together now for about 3 months. We're in a 6-month program together, and she's in the corporate environment, and I'd known her for almost a year. It was probably around 10 months before we actually started working together. So for 10 months, she'd known I was a coach. We'd had several conversations that could have been deemed as coaching conversations, but it was really not with an intention of hooking her in as a client, but just seeing someone who she was going through a bit of a difficult time and her mindset wasn't where it could be. So just sitting with her and being present with her and offering some support and some gentle encouragement and some coaching, and just serving her, basically. That's what happened. So the relationship developed over the 10 months. And then it got to the stage where I just said to her, look, why don't you get some coaching on this? Like, have a think about what that might look like for you. And I would love to throw my hat in the ring. So I know in the corporate environment, they have like approved suppliers and everything else. And at the time, I wasn't one. But I said to her, like, I would love to throw my hat in the ring for that. Like, it would be so cool. We've spent a good 10 months getting to know each other, and what we've done together so far is ace. Like, that's been amazing. Imagine what we could do together over the next 6 months. And she went away and she got budget, and I got on the approved suppliers list for a big organization. And that was really just with service at the heart of what I was doing. And so that's how I created her as a client. But what's now happening, and again, I don't know if this is ever going to go anywhere. So I'm not sharing this from a place of do this and you'll definitely get a client. But just from a philosophy of serve first, and the wealth comes, the client comes, the business grows. So one of the key things here is, for me, it's just presence. Really listening and being with someone with like a heart-to-heart connection. And in her sessions, we've been talking about her development, her confidence as a leader, but we've been doing a lot of work like on the inner stuff and the mindset, all of that. And she said to me that her team felt like they were way ahead of the game, right? Because of how she was showing up as a leader, which is so cool. And I was like, tell me more about your team. And from that conversation, just from that curiosity, she started to say things like, well, my direct team feel like that, but there's a wider team. We're going through a restructure and there's a wider team that are going to need supporting. How do I get that wider team to see what my current team see? And I was like, well, what are your thoughts on that? So she started talking. And I offered her, as part of her program, why don't I do some sessions with that wider team? Like, why don't I run that for you as a gift, as part of your program? Like, would it be cool for them to know what you now know? Would it be cool for them to have similar realizations to what you've had? And she went through, like, she asked me, how am I doing as a client? And I was like, no way. Because one of her stories was about needing external validation. And I was like, I'm not answering that. I was like, I'm throwing that back at you. How do you think you're doing? What are you seeing? And she was like, more peace, more confidence, more self-belief. I feel like I've got a voice. Like, I can be in the meeting rooms now with the senior leaders and hold my own space. I feel free to have an opinion. I realize that when I'm not speaking up, it's not because I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because I'm not interested in that conversation. So there was so much juice in there for her. And I say, would it be cool for that wider team to have the same understanding that's helped you access all of that? And she was like, yeah. So I just said to her, like, why don't you send me some dates over? Send me some dates over and I'll set something up. And we can do bite-sized sessions, or if we're allowed to meet in person at some point in the next few months, then I can come into the office and do something there as a group. So we're kind of just being creative as what would serve them. And who knows where that will go? Maybe nowhere, maybe somewhere. Maybe those sessions will be enough. But it's just having that freedom to just go in and serve. And that's how clients are created. And I can't tell you like the amount of times that has happened where my existing clients, they haven't thought about, oh, I know someone that could need coaching. But just from being really present and really listening, you can see this would be helpful for them. I'm open to having a conversation. Why don't you give them some time with me? So that's kind of cool. So I'll keep you informed
really cool
on how it goes. Yeah, like it's not a client creation story, but it kind of is. You know, it's like it's a connection story. It's a deep listening story. It's how I've grown my business.
Yeah,
that's really it.
And it's what I really heard throughout that, Lisa, is like connection piece. It's like you were connected to each step of the way. Like you weren't thinking about the next step. You weren't thinking about where you've been. It was just, you know, you said you've been in that, you've known her originally for like that whole 10-month period. And then, I mean, I'm imagining it was a lot longer than that before you became a client, maybe a year or so, right? And throughout that stage, it was like she was in your world and you stayed connected. And that's just perfect, because that's exactly how it is, right? There's a real sense of just slowing down. There was no urgency there, and you helped to see possibility. And I know how annoyingly curious you are sometimes as well, and how much of a gift that is. Like, it's such a beautiful gift to have. I don't think I know anyone as curious as you are, and I love that about you. And the real
clearly
piece
offended
here,
by the fact that you think that's annoying, but I'll let that one go.
well, yeah, but it's my shit, not yours, so you have to go over it. But the thing that I've really heard in there, which is something that's often really underestimated by coaches and really unseen, is how powerful it is when you really believe in someone. When you really believe they've got everything they need. Like you said, that she was looking for validation. I'm not going to do that. That's not my job. What do you think? And it's like when someone turns that around you, it's like boom, like fireworks go off, because somebody believes in me so much. They know that I've got what I need, and there's so much power in that. So much.
The power comes from the client having the insight themselves.
Yeah.
If you can give your wisdom to them, and it will be diluted down, and it won't land, and it won't resonate, or it will be intellectualized, but it won't be a felt experience.
Yeah.
So when you can help them see their own brilliance, that's where the juice is. And part of that is not buying into their stories. Another story that I wanted to just share, this is not, again, it's not a direct client creation story, but it's so relevant to how we show up as coaches. This was something that I talked about with my coach yesterday. And she was sharing, so George Pransky used to go into schools like with really little children, and he would deliver some talks. And what he noticed was that the teacher was like, well, the kids are really small and they're not going to be that engaged. You're going to find it really hard to keep them entertained and keep them focused and concentrating. And he was like, well, I kind of want to do it anyway. Can I come in and see? So he went in and he was sharing. And what he noticed was sometimes the kids were really, really tuned in to what he was saying, and like you could hear a pin drop. And then other times they were just like totally distracted, not knowing, not listening to George at all. And he got really curious. It comes back to curiosity. And he was like, I wonder what the difference is. Like, I want to record myself. I want to record the classroom so that I can see what's happening. So that's what he did. So he started going in and he started recording. And what he noticed was, when I was sharing from the heart, the kids were really engaged. Like when I connected with them from that place, I had their attention. They were present with me and I was present with them. But when I was in my memory bank, recalling a story or a question or something that someone told me once, he lost their attention. So he wasn't sharing from here anymore, he was sharing from here. And it was really fascinating. Like I'd never heard that story before, so it's fascinating for me to hear, but it makes so much sense. Like whenever I'm super engaged, it isn't because somebody's got the most polished, perfect presentation.
No.
It's when there's emotion behind it, when there's a genuine connection from the person, what they're saying, what they're feeling, what's in that space. And for me, that's so powerful when you have conversations with people. They go in looking for that. If you're looking for anything, go in from that space, not in here wondering how you can convert them into a paying client.
Yeah, that it is an art. It is an art of connection, isn't it? Like we said before, it is almost like this perfect dance. I just love that piece around, being connected.
But I love, Sam, how art is messy.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
sometimes it's like we keep our colors within the lines, and other times we're just fucking flicking paint all over the canvas.
Yeah.
Right? It's not art in a way that it's a prescribed way of being. It's art in that it's a creative just connection with someone.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And it doesn't matter if this is your first conversation or your millionth conversation. It's like it's no different from when you're having a conversation with your mom or your brother or your daughter or your best friend. It's a conversation. And you all have that within you to connect with someone in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what we can say there. That is the art of connection in action. It's not just here's how to do it, because that's not how it looks. This is, like you said, go find your tapestry and be prepared to create something, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Super cool, man. Nice.
Very cool. So do you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing?
Yeah, man. Like, this is a super exciting day for us because we've actually created a course, which we're super looking forward to. What should we talk about first? Because
can we talk about how I've actually mastered the technology?
Well, yes, Lisa has actually mastered the technology, and now I'm completely redundant in all systems.
It probably took me 2 days. It took me 2 days to do what you would have done in 5 minutes, but I feel like I've got a feel for the technology space.
And well, I say it's working brilliantly. We don't know that yet because no one's started the course, but we're hoping it's all going to be good. But yeah, we designed this course, and really, if this live has resonated with you, if you're sitting there now, and I'd love to know, right, we're running out of numbers, so give us a 4 if this is you. If you're sitting there, you've listened to this live, and you're thinking, I want me some of that. Like, I really want to run and roll my coaching practice out like that, like in service, to slow down, to connect, and to create. Like, if that sounds like you, let us know, because this is what this course is all about. What you've heard me and Lisa talking about is the whole intention, the whole meaning behind what we do into a course. So yeah, we designed an 8-week course, which is kind of like a hybrid between information. There's lots of practical stuff that will be emailed out to you. These are kind of the details, kind of the nitty gritty. But you'll also get live calls with us as a pair. We come as a pair. You don't get one or the other, you get both. Right?
We're like Siamese twins.
We are. We're like the unmarried, unassociated power couple. A dangerous duo. That's the way it is. And so we're going to show up to those live coaching calls every other week. So anything that you're stuck on, whether it's mindset, whether it's a practical thing, we are going to get into the detail and help you move through this. Because one thing that we both know for sure is that you can have all the practical information in the world, but when it comes to actually putting it into practice, it's not the knowledge that gets us stuck. The real transformation is when we're moving through what we think we can do, where we think we're stuck. And that's where we come in, and we'll work through that together with you. The really exciting news, well, more exciting for people listening than it is for me and you, I guess, is that, for the first, up until the 15th of June, we're running an early bird. So we're doing it for 80% of what we would normally do it. So it's like 80% discount, which is pretty huge.
It's the bargain of the century.
It actually is. When I was sitting there thinking, shit, man, I paid like thousands for this. But, you know, the whole point is that we want to get people on the course, get people going through it. We know there's people in here in this group that listen to this stuff and would love to be a part of it. So this is our way of making that accessible.
Yeah. It was really important to us. I know the fear that I had when I started my coaching business and spending, like, investing as much as I did and have continued to do. And I appreciate that not everyone can do that. So we wanted to create something where it is a more accessible starting point for someone who might not have any clients yet, you know, really might have money on their mind, and that's going to get in the way of them having that connection that we talked about. So we wanted to offer something that was at a price point where it felt like it would be more achievable for people. So yeah, and we toyed with the idea of doing like an online course that was all just learn in your own time. And again, it didn't feel very genuine to us. It felt like there's a gap there. It's like the power really comes from, you can learn in your own time at your own pace the content, and it's there for you to digest and use and put into action. But if you're sitting going, I know what I need to do, I know how I need to do it, I can't do it, then that's why we want to offer live coaching as well.
Yeah.
So that we can kind of work through that, answer any questions, maybe even coach you live on the call. We just want to be in service to you and get your practices off the ground and running and bringing in some income and creating some clients for you. So we would love the people in this group to be a part of that. It's like, I love serving this community as it is, and I also love the stuff that we've been doing with people in the group in like smaller communities as well. So yeah, that's our invitation.
So tomorrow night, basically, we're gonna post up some stuff, right?
Yeah, we'll post out all the details. We'll give you access to one of the videos as well. Like, we'll make that available so you can get a feel for like the flavor of the program, and all the details on how to sign up and everything will be in what we share. Yeah, and there's also the option to work with us. I can't remember if you talked about this, Sam, now, but there's the program, and then there's also an option to add on more one-on-one coaching with us as well. Well, it's 1-on-2 because you get 2 of us. But again, like, heavily discounted. We haven't worked at this price since we started coaching years ago. So this is on offer now for you guys. If you want it, it's there for the taking. So yeah, we'll put the details in this group. And if you've got any questions, then just let us know. You can Facebook Messenger us, you can email us, you can stick a comment on this live, just let us know, and we will always respond.
Just write like hell yeah somewhere. Write it in the comments, write it in the group, write it tomorrow night in a post. Just write a hell yeah, and we'll send you over the details. We'll have a conversation with you and see what it looks like. But you know, if you sat there and you really want to get stuck in and learn a system that works for you, to create your own system that works for you, to create clients constantly, then this is the right thing to be doing, without having to do all the marketing and niching and all that stuff, which is sometimes useful, but technically not.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Like, being at the beginning of your coaching practice is such an exciting time, and I know that it can start to feel really heavy when you don't feel like you're supported. So it's part of it for me is like just bringing back the lightness, putting a bit more spring in the step.
Yeah.
Cool,
guys. Well, thanks for sticking with us. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I'd love to know what that is, whatever it is. I'd love to know what you hear in tonight's live or what you heard in tonight's live. And yeah, we'll post up all the details tomorrow. See what you think. Go and check out the preview. And yeah, God bless.
See you soon.